afternoon, everybody. I'm back and dry now. Got caught by that rainstorm actually shortly after I started walking back to the car. It started tipping it down, so my trousers got soaked. But I did bring my Gore-Tex waterproof with me, which was great actually. But my legs were not so lucky. So I thought I'd do a quick unpacking of everything that was in my bag. Didn't really get a chance to show anyone when I was in the field, so to speak. I have weighed it, and it came up at being, I was carrying 24 kilograms, maybe 20, possibly even 25 with the dog's bed, which he needs because he's an older dog and he's part lurcher, so feels the cold quite a lot. So with his food actually and his bed, I was probably carrying 25 kilos, which is not quite a quarter of my body weight, but nearly. So that was a little heavy with hindsight. So I might do another video on how I can drop that weight down a little bit. I know there's millions of videos of people becoming highly obsessive with weight when they camp, but I don't mind carrying a bit of extra weight for a little additional comfort. But I might try and drop it down a bit because that was quite a lot, and it just means I get really hot. Right, so here was in my pack. First thing, the Aldi inflatable mat, self-inflating mat. I really liked it. I've slept on lots of mats before. They've all been a bit thin or a bit narrow. That was neither. It did self-inflate relatively well, but I just topped it up a little bit, and I blew into it through my clothing, through my top t-shirt, so that should stop any condensation getting into the mat itself or reduce it. That was really nice. I don't think I'm going to fiddle with that. I did buy and use a couple of weeks ago on a normal campsite, not a wild camp like this, this Trek, Van Gogh Trek 3 Standard. That was nice, but it was far narrower and quite a lot thinner. So I'm not sure if it's worth, I think it's probably worth the weight penalty of having something twice the size. I'm not sure if it's twice the weight, but it's certainly twice the size, as you can see. Yeah, I might pick around with camp mats a little bit more, but I'm quite keen on that Aldi one, to be honest. Next was the tent. So this is made by Sierra Designs and is at least 20 to 25 years old. And I don't even know what make it was, but it's the Half Moon Plus. That's a bit of an old beast as well, actually. It seemed to do the job. It was waterproof. I wouldn't have a lot of faith in that ground sheet after this time, and I don't know what it would be like in high winds. I think that tent's going to need a few tweaks next time. Maybe some additional guy ropes fitted because I haven't got any at the moment. A few more tent pegs, a few more guy ropes, and then maybe a footprint ground sheet of some kind, just to give myself a bit more confidence in that ground sheet. Then it might be all right. I might wear it and see if there's a huge amount of room for weight saving on that. It was a good size for the dog and me, but and I have had my girlfriend in with me as well as the dog, but that was pretty damn tight. The dog was not comfortable, and it's not a huge dog. But yeah, I think if you're arriving and able to sit outside, then a tent like that's about right. And I did plan on sitting outside for some of the evening, which is why I brought this incredibly cute tarpaulin with me. I normally just peg that outside, and it's a nice place to sit. And then when the dew comes in or it starts raining, I'll put my rucksack on top of that ground sheet, fold the ground sheet over, and then it keeps the rucksack nice and dry. But I wasn't able to use it because almost as soon as I pitched up, it started raining, and I spent the rest of the evening in the tent. Really, it's 8 o'clock by the time I pitched up, so there's only a couple of hours of daylight. But and the temperature dropped quite a lot, so I was quite comfortable. But I wouldn't have I've been reading into these smaller tents that people are running. The Hilleberg Atco, I think, is one. There's a few little 1 to 2 man tents like made by Terra Nova. They're really light. And then for far less money, there's the Vango Banshee, which seemed really popular too. But how people can spend more than a night sleeping in those things, I don't understand. They appear to be so small, you can't sit up in them. I think I'd really struggle. I want to be able to sit up and have a bit of space to move around and sort myself out. Perhaps if you're walking or cycling till really late and all you're doing is bedding down and jumping into the tent and sleeping and then getting up again, up and about, then those small ones are fine. But if you're potentially arriving a few hours before bedtime and want to sit and read and play cards or just fiddle around, I think really I would need something you can sit up in and perhaps go at least one size above the number of people in the tent. I mean, possibly with the girlfriend, the dog, and me. I think I'd like a 3 to 4 man really. But I'll enjoy fiddling around and researching on that. I also brought with me this little thing, little seat. This was an eBay job. I'm sure I saw someone else using one online and thought it looked fun for about £2 or whatever I paid. It wasn't ludicrously cheap. I mean, for a bit of fluff, it's not tiny money. But yeah, would I use that? I didn't use it really this weekend, but that was perhaps because I was in the tent all the time. If I was sitting outside, I suppose I would have sat on the ground sheet. But maybe it's worth bringing if you want to perch and have lunch on a rock or the wet ground as you're walking along. You could drag that out and sit on that. It would save scuffing your trousers and things. Perhaps that's worth having. It's so light. I can't see how it's a bad thing. I might put that on my lower back next time. My rucksack that I'll show you is a bit old school in its features, and it's got some padding, but far less than some of the flash ones you can get in Go Outdoors and elsewhere now. So that might help that tiny bit, I suppose. What else did I bring? Oh, so I brought my bivvy bag, which I've used a few times, not while camping, but I've used it on the beach actually. I brought it just because I didn't have a huge amount of faith in that tent, and I thought, just in case it was a complete disaster and fell apart or started leaking like crazy, I could jump in this bivvy. There wouldn't be room for the dog in there, but that's quite good actually. That Rab one. I've also got an army surplus one that's huge and super tough, but has no real hood and you can't zip it up. And the reason that's particularly good is it has got a built-in mosquito net. So if you're avoiding sandhoppers or mosquitoes or ticks or something, having that on but without the claustrophobic feeling of a opaque material on your face makes that possibly one of the better ones, I would say, and it is breathable. Also brought my sleeping bag, of course. I quite like sleeping bags, but I normally open them up so they feel like a quilt, which I may end up, if I ever replace it, which I probably will, then I may look into a quilt, as I use it as a quilt anyway for the most part. But I don't like sleeping in a huge amount of clothes, and people who use quilts often wear lots of warm clothes as well, so that when they crawl out, I suppose they're in instant comfort. This is a Vango Eiger, E-I-G-E-R, Vango Eiger 400, and this is 20 years old, so I very much doubt that it's made anymore. It was 3 to 4 season, I think, when it came out, but I suspect it's. I've read their performance decreases these artificial fibre sleeping bags, so it's probably more like a 2.5 season now. I don't particularly feel the cold, but I don't find it particularly warm. There was a time when I used to find it far too hot, but I don't think it is anymore. So maybe I'll sort that out at some point. Couple of jumpers, which was a bit over the top really. One sort of fleecy jumper, I wore that, and then this one which I didn't really need. I could have probably done without one of those. 2 books. My a book on the SAS that I didn't get to because I didn't finish my Branson book. What else are there things? Oh, my second pillow. There is an inflatable pillow. It's a bit wet. There's an inflatable pillow inside the sleeping bag, but in the pocket there. I shan't bother getting it out, but that's okay. I said in an earlier video I didn't like it very much because I've used it a couple of times before. And it takes a bit of getting used to, having your head moving around on air if you're used to the sort of solid sensation of a normal pillow. I liked it better last night. I think I've just got used to it, and perhaps I had the optimum amount of inflation so it wasn't too bouncy. But this is another pillow that's a tiny travel pillow in a very old homemade pillowcase, and the two combined were quite nice because it meant I could read and sort of have my head upright a bit, and then I only used the main pillow to sleep in last night. I think I just had the other one kicking around somewhere. Heating and cooking, which is the main reason I can be interested in going to these places really. I think I'd be pretty miserable if I spent the whole an evening and a morning on the moors and just ate cold food or a cold pasty or a sandwich. It's all about getting some warm food down you, I'm sure. This is really old camping pots, 2 camping pots and a lid / frying pan with the little grippers, which are quite good. They can fit in there, but I don't think it works very well. The lid you can do like that, so you've got the lid on, and to avoid scalding yourself. I'm sure you get these anywhere. These are only aluminium, they're not titanium or anything really flash. So that was quite good. I didn't really need it. I heated up almost all my water in this little army issue, which is second hand. This was from an army surplus store, probably about 10 years ago. I had an aluminium one, but I lost it. I think this might be more. Oh, maybe it's aluminium. This was quite good. The only thing is it didn't work fantastically with my stove. It fitted nicely in there, which seemed to fit in, slotting quite well. The only thing, as I'm sure everyone knows, with drinking out of one of these really hot cups, is it scalds your mouth when you're drinking hot drinks out of it, and it's a bit too much for a hot drink. A cup of tea will feel a bit weak in there, and then it's far too hot to drink. And then suddenly, when it cools down very quickly in metal, of course, especially outside, and then it rapidly becomes the perfect temperature to drink. And shortly afterwards, the temperature drops and it feels a bit cold. So I prefer to bring a plastic cup. I always have, and then you can heat it up and cook it on there, but then pour it into this little thing, and then this doesn't get too hot then, and you can drink it straight away. And if you've got too much to go in there, you can just do it a couple of times and you'll still get through it pretty quick, or heat that up again if you need. That's in there. I brought a couple of spoons with me. This metal one is supposed to be all that way, and it's quite comfortable. That I only just used it for butter actually, and then I have another plastic one which I can't find at the moment. I haven't done anything with it. I probably hid it in the depths of my bag somewhere. That was quite nice. This t-shirt was what I wore walking up, but it's so sodden and sweaty, especially the lower back area, that I wasn't able to wear it today. Maybe I should look into wicking materials for base layers, because it stinks to high heaven, that thing. And that was only from an hour and a half of fairly tough walking, but I do get hot when I work this way. This was the camping stove I used. I've got a few stoves actually, again mostly quite old, but this is just a standard gas one, uses the Coleman gas, self-sealing. You can tell it's old because this is all tarnished now. It's really good actually. It's a bit heavy by modern standards, but it's really stable and it's low. It's got a little bit of a rough abrasive surface here, so pots shouldn't slide off too much, although they can do. The only disadvantage with this was it still caught the wind a little bit, even though I ended up using my shoes to try and act as a bit of a windbreak, but that wasn't brilliant. And the other disadvantage is this cup doesn't really fit very well. It just about balances on, but it was quite precarious really.